according to the Pew Research and the different polls, about 50% of Americans, all right, and this maybe goes all the way around the world. Maybe some countries are more, and we'll tell them why in a little bit. But the fact is, they say they've either seen one or experienced one in some way. And when they used to come to you, when you first started answering questions, you thought you had this thing cold. You knew so much about the cosmos. The fact is, you thought, these guys are nuts, okay? They just don't know what's going on.
When I was a teenager in my early 20s, I thought I could explain everything that people thought was a UFO.
But then you came to a 1% that you couldn't explain.
I could explain about 99% of what people came to me with.
All right, let's start with the 99% that you explained, because I want folks to know the misidentifications of UFOs. You had a list. People asked you, and they've asked you all over the world, and you've told them, no, it's not a UFO, it's this.
Right.
Go through your list of the top 6, okay?
Well, the first question I would ask them is, hey, when you saw this object in the night sky, were your eyes dark adapted? And they said, what do you mean? It says it takes at least 20 minutes for your eyes to adapt to the dark, where you're not simply seeing reflections of what you saw in bright light. So you don't trust anything in those first 20 minutes. For some people, it takes 30 minutes. So if they see lights, that might be just a reflection of what's going on with the brain-eye mechanism in those 20 minutes. But if that's not the case, I'd say, well, tell me, what did you see? The most common thing I saw people saying was a UFO is what we astronomers call a fireball. It's a meteor that comes through the atmosphere, but makes a close enough encounter that it will appear to be, say, half the size of the moon in the sky. And I personally have seen fireballs that are 4 times the diameter of the moon in the sky. And so that doesn't happen often, but when it does, it gets people attention. And when they come that close, they can change direction, they can leave a smoke trail, they can get brighter. If you see it getting bigger and bigger and not moving, you better run. Mm-hmm. That means it's heading right for you.
Yeah.
So the planet Venus in the morning.
You said that was almost the number one thing that you kept on being asked about.
Well, people are familiar with Venus in the evening sky, but Venus in the morning sky can be as much as 12 times brighter than what it is in the evening sky.
You say you can almost read a paper by it.
Yeah, there are times when you can read a newspaper by the light of Venus in the morning sky. And when people see that, they're stunned and they're thinking, this has got to be a UFO. It's the planet Venus.
All right. These are all things that people think are UFOs, and they're not.
They're not.
Keep going.
Okay, well, in Canada, the Pleiades, which is a cluster of 7 stars, it will typically rise and go parallel to the horizon for some time. And people say, hey, I just saw a cluster of spaceships. Another one that is really common is what they call the chandelier effect, where they see these glowing lights on the horizon. And I said, well, was there a window pane between you and what you saw? And they said, well, why do you ask? And I said, well, if there's a chandelier or some set of light behind you, it'll be reflected off at the glass and you'll think it's something you see in the horizon. And so that took care of a lot of the people's sightings. And then there's the hoaxes. I mean, at the University of British Columbia, the engineering students loved to play tricks on people. So they would set up these balloons with hydrogen gas in them, let them explode, and get a good laugh when people would report it as a UFO, or they have a cluster of them that they move in a certain direction. So there's those things. And then what I saw at the Algonquin Radio Observatory was military activity that the government didn't want people to know about. And so we had an incident where this very fast-moving aircraft zipped over, saw our telescope, and hovered. And it was ruining our observations because there was radio interference. It was a radio telescope. So we called NORAD, which wasn't very far away, and said, hey, I know your pilots are curious, but please, we're trying to do observations of galaxies. Can you keep them away? They said, we don't have anything like that.
But you had a little response to that.
Well, we said, well, if this keeps happening, we'll have to call the Ottawa newspapers. They said, oh, don't do that, don't do that.
Yeah.
So
And a few years later, what happened?
Well, they stopped flying over our observatory.